Hi, Kelly here from freebiefindingmom.com, and thank you for joining me for another Friday session of Money Talk, where basically we get together on Fridays, usually between 1:30 and 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and go over usually a couple of the more popular finance or money-related questions that you've had here on the Freebie Finding Mom Facebook page. So today's first question comes from Holly, and Holly asked, she says, my 3 siblings and I want to gift our parents a trip for their anniversary this summer. She said, we haven't agreed on how much each of us will pay. Should I leave it up to them how much they want to pay, or should I tell them the total and divide it by 4? I know 2 of my siblings probably weren't planning on spending that much, and I'm okay with covering the extra. How should I ask them for money for this gift? Okay, good question, Holly. And you guys had some good suggestions, and I'll share my thoughts here after I read what your insights were. So Charlotte said I would ask each of them how much they want to pay. I would base the trip on 4 times the least amount. And then Crystal said I would ask them their budget first, and that was what I was thinking too, Crystal. My first thought is go to each of your siblings and ask them how much they have in their budget for this gift. And then that will give you the total to start working from. And then Crystal goes on to say you can either plan something within that budget or cover the difference without saying anything, which is what I would probably do if I could. If I was in this situation, I would feel obligated to pay a quarter even if I couldn't afford it. This way, they feel they're contributing equally to the gift without guilt or resentment. Good point, Crystal. And then Tammy said I would start off with splitting it equally 4 ways and then address it if it's a problem later. So that's another option. And then Angie said she'd definitely ask them what they can do first. Everyone makes different amounts of money and has different bills, so if you're comfortable picking up the slack, that's okay. Just make sure they tell you what they're comfortable with, and don't address it like you feel like they can't afford it. Absolutely not. Yep. You don't want to make them feel inadequate. Tell them the total amount, ask how much they can do, and how they feel it should be split. And then Jackie said, after asking about budgets, plan on covering the cost yourself and ask them to split. In my experience, you may never see the split part, and feelings will be hurt or resentments will build. So yeah, this is, just be careful with this, Holly. Let me share what Bonnie thought as well. Bonnie said, she first asked, do you know if your folks are really interested in this trip? She said, just as a personal experience, she said, especially as seniors, when it comes to traveling, I love it, but basically not everybody does. So make sure first that your parents would be open to a trip like this. And assuming they are, she said, if we assume that they have been confirmed that they are committed to making this trip, the next question is there a way to bring down the cost and still have a great experience? You don't talk about what trip you have in mind, so it's pointless to make suggestions in the area. She said, in my world with 4 sisters, we were taught endlessly about fairness and equity. Thus, a venture like this would be split evenly by 5. If you're financially in a position to cover up the cost up front, as you alluded to, what about accepting monthly or periodic payments from siblings to cover their portion? So that's another option too. If maybe they can't come up with the full amount, whatever that amount is up front, you can always say, whatever works for you. I mean, if you want to split it up over the next 6 months or something, that's fine. So it's up to you, Holly, but this is what I would do first. First, if I was in your situation, I would definitely see what everybody's thinking they want to spend. If they come back and say, oh, I was thinking maybe $300 or whatever, and then say, okay, well, that gives me something to work from. That should give you an idea of what kind of trip it can be. And then start doing your research based on that, where you can get some of the best deals, and obviously price compare as much as you possibly can and look at lots of different options in the area. And then, take it back to them and say, hey, it looks like we'll have enough. This is great. Or, you know what, it looks like we may not have enough for this, but I don't know. I personally would probably tell them if I was covering, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't tell them if I was covering the difference, but basically just, take it back to them with the information and say, we were planning on all of us contributing. It was going to be about $1,600. The trip would really be about $2,000. So I think we're going to try to see how we can cut it back, and then maybe cut it back to whatever you can. And then maybe if you're okay with covering up that difference, maybe just keep that to yourself, I guess, if you're okay with doing that. But anyways, I hope it works out. And that's a really thoughtful idea, and happy anniversary to your parents. Thanks for your question, Holly. Okay, so the next question comes from Lydia, and Lydia asks, has anyone had luck negotiating with their phone, cable, or internet company to lower their rate? I have done that numerous times, so I will share my experience here at the end. But you guys had some good suggestions, really good suggestions actually on this question. Liz said if you phone them and ask their retention department and say you're thinking of switching, they'll give a great offer just to keep you. Yep. Very true. I've done that several times. Erin said, longtime satellite customer here, called at the end of 2018 to ask for a discount, ended up getting $70 a month for 12 months. Totally worth your time to try. Samuel said, depending on how long you've been with them, they'll do a lot. Ask for someone in retention and tell them you're thinking of canceling because of the deals you see. And make sure you include the deals they themselves are giving new customers. Great point, Samuel. When you've been an established loyal client and deserve just as good of a deal as, or not better than, a new customer. Emily said, nope, but I searched around and found a small reseller that was half the price while selling the internet services of the major company. So that's another option I didn't think of. So thank you for that, Emily. And then Desiree said, a lot of times if you add a home phone plan to your internet, it'll lower your rates like crazy. I did not know that. So that is something to keep in mind. I guess adding a home phone plan can help reduce your internet rates. I guess just the bundling. I know they like bundling of services. So thank you for that, Desiree. And then Bonnie said, just switch. Lots of offers out there with competing providers, but generally only available to, quote, new customers. We switch every couple of years. When the promo pricing runs out, we're done. So this is what I said. So thank you guys for your thoughts on that one. What I have done whenever I have negotiated with either, usually it's, the phone or the cable, the internet provider. First off, I have found, number one, like Samuel and Liz had said, asking for the retention department is usually the best way to go. I have also found, just so you know, whenever you're gonna make this phone call, there is a high probability, or at least from my experience, that you're gonna be on hold for a long time, regardless of who you talk to, regardless if you ask for retention. You're gonna probably get passed around and you're gonna be waiting. So just be prepared. This is not gonna be like a, hey, 5-minute phone call, can I lower my rate? Probably. But it's worth it if you can really, like I say, reduce your rate and lock into a better plan. And it really behooves them too, especially if you're a loyal customer. So number one, I agree with having success with asking for the retention department. Number two, I would, if you have been a loyal customer, tell them that. So, I've been with you guys for the last 8 years and I really would hate to leave your services, but it's just not what's in my budget. And I have had companies ask me, well, what were you thinking you wanted to spend? And kind of work that way. So have a number in mind of kind of, oh, they're charging me $100 now a month. I really would like to be more around 85. Have that number in your mind to be able to tell them if they ask, or even if they don't ask, just say, what can we do to get me closer to that 85 number? And again, like a number of you had mentioned about bundling of services, that can definitely help too. See if what they can do about services or even switching out packages, especially if you're talking about cable. I know the one time recently when we did this, probably a year and a half ago, they were talking about reducing us to a different level of a tier on our TV provider. And at first my husband was like, no, I don't think we could deal with that. And I said, well, give me the details of what the channels are. And when it came down to it, to be honest with you, we weren't even using most of the channels that we were paying for anyways. So reducing it down, I think we maybe lost 1 or 2 channels that, we watched regularly, or that my husband watched regularly, but otherwise it wasn't that big of a difference. So really get into the details and see what do you really have to have, and maybe be willing to compromise or kind of give up some of those services too. But anyways, retention department, no, it's going to probably be a long and not a super fun phone call, but it will be if you actually save money, which is great. And I must always do when I've done this, and it sounds like you guys have had success too, so it's totally worth the time to do it. Just know that it may take a little while to make that phone call, but definitely worth it, Lydia. So I hope you have good luck with negotiating with your provider. But if not, like Bonnie said out there's so many different providers. And then also, like Emily said, there could be a small retailer that could offer the same services, but at a much better discount. So those are things that you might want to consider too. Thank you guys so much for your questions this week. As always, if you have any questions about finances, money management, investments even, because that's my background. I love talking about the stock market and investments and mutual funds, all that fun stuff. So you can either leave your question down in the comments, send me a direct message, or you can always send me an email. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.